The entire sports world just shifted on its axis, and if you weren't watching, you genuinely missed the moment that ended a superstar season and reignited a dynasty's dying breath. We're not just talking about a basketball game, we're talking about a legacy check that almost bounced before a familiar face stepped in to provide the funds. One team walked away with their season intact, another had their hopes vaporized in the span of 50 seconds, and across the country, a playoff bracket was finalized without its most intimidating piece even stepping on the floor. Stick with me for the next few minutes because what unfolded in San Francisco and Philadelphia last night isn't just a recap, it's a preview of the absolute chaos waiting for us this weekend. If you click off now, you're going to be the one person in the group chat tomorrow who doesn't understand why everyone is panicking about Phoenix and Boston. There is a very specific, almost primal fear that exists in the NBA's play-in tournament, and for about 47 minutes of basketball last night at the Chase Center, the Golden State Warriors were staring directly into the abyss. According to reports from the broadcast and the official stats sheet, the Los Angeles Clippers came into the Bay Area with a singular mission: ruin the party. And honestly, for the vast majority of the night, they were doing exactly that. Sources close to the team dynamic would likely suggest that the Clippers, led by a locked-in Kawhi Leonard and a surging Benedict Mathurin, were the more composed, physical, and frankly the more desperate team. You could see it in the way they attacked the paint. Mathurin in particular was a problem that Golden State had zero answers for through the first three quarters, leading all scorers with a hefty 23 points and playing with the kind of swagger that suggests he didn't get the memo about being intimidated by the four championship banners hanging in the rafters. The Warriors looked slow, they looked old, and worst of all, Stephen Curry looked human. He had a first half that we've seen before during this nagging knee injury saga: hesitant, a step slow, and settling for looks that just clanked off the iron. It was the kind of performance that makes you, as a fan, start doing that uncomfortable math in your head. Is this it? Is this how the greatest shooter we've ever seen quietly exits stage left? There's that gut punch of dread that keeps you glued to the screen, even when your team is down double digits, because you're terrified you're about to witness the official end of something special. And then, as if someone flipped a switch that only the truly elite possess, the fourth quarter happened. You have to understand the stakes here. The Warriors finished the regular season as the 10th seed in the Western Conference. 10th. That's not just underachieving, that's scraping the bottom of the playoff barrel. To even get a sniff of the real postseason, they needed to win this game, and then they needed to win again on Friday. It's a mountain climb in flip-flops. But here's the thing about mountains. You don't look at the top, you look at the next foothold. And that next foothold was cutting into a 13-point deficit. The arena was a weird mix of nervous silence and forced cheer. You know that sound. It's the sound of 20,000 people who paid good money and are trying to convince themselves they're having a good time while their investment is crumbling. But then a funny thing happened on the way to the Clippers' victory party. Kristaps Porzingis, who has been a revelation when he's upright, started stretching the floor, and more importantly, Al Horford, a man who has seemingly been 38 years old for the last decade, decided to turn back the clock and drain four massive three-pointers in the final frame. Four. That's not just a spark, that's a full-blown electrical fire of Heron savvy. It's the kind of contribution that doesn't show up on the MVP ballot, but absolutely changes the trajectory of a franchise's summer vacation plans. Now, let's be real for a second. You're watching this thinking, okay, great, the supporting cast is showing up, but where is number 30? Ah, yes, where is number 30? That is the question that hangs over the NBA like a fog. For most of the night, the answer was he's right there, being guarded very well, and he looks tired. And I think that's the part of the story that makes what happened next so incredibly satisfying, not just for Warriors fans, but for anyone who appreciates the psychology of greatness. Stephen Curry missed 27 games this season because of that knee. 27 games is an eternity in the NBA. That's enough time to lose your rhythm, your conditioning, and according to the endless scroll of social media hot takes, your claim to being a top 5 player in the league. It is alleged by some corners of the internet that he's washed, that the window is sealed shut with industrial-grade epoxy. And for 47 minutes, the Clippers defense was making those allegations sound like verified facts. But the mark of a true legend isn't the ability to dominate for a full game. It's the ability to be absolutely silent for 47 minutes and then shatter your soul in the final 50 seconds. With the game tied and the entire season hanging in the balance, Stephen Curry did what Stephen Curry Curry does. He didn't drive into traffic looking for a foul. He didn't panic pass to a role player. He sized up his defender, took one dribble to his left, and rose up for a go-ahead three-pointer that was so pure it might as well have been a religious experience for anyone wearing blue and gold. 50 seconds left, neck splashed, lead secured. You could literally see the air leave the Clippers bench. It was a psychological evisceration delivered with a smile and a mouthguard chewed to oblivion. This wasn't just a made basket, it was a statement that said, "You may have me on the ropes for an hour, but you will not close the deal." And what about the other side of this coin? Because this is the brutal, ruthless nature of the play-in tournament. For every Cinderella story, there's a carriage turning back into a pumpkin and a footman turning back into a rat. For the Los Angeles Clippers, this is a disaster of monumental proportions. Sources claim the locker room afterwards was, unsurprisingly, a tomb. You had Kawhi Leonard, a two-time Finals MVP and one of the most feared playoff performers of this generation, scoring 21 points but being completely and utterly neutralized in the fourth quarter. 2 points in the final period. That's not a typo. That's a disappearance act that will fuel the talking head debate shows for the entire offseason. This is a team that was built on paper to win a championship. They have the stoic superstar, the supporting cast of shooters, and a coach who's been there before. And yet, they're going home. They are eliminated. The finality of it is what stings the most. There's no "we'll get them tomorrow." Tomorrow is canceled. The offseason starts now, and it's going to be filled with incredibly uncomfortable questions about roster construction, health, and whether this core can actually stay on the floor long enough to matter. It's a sobering reminder that in the NBA, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you can't execute for 48 minutes, you're just another name on the list of teams that could have been. The Warriors, on the other hand, live to fight another day, but that day is coming fast, and it's coming against a team that might be even more terrifying than the Clippers. Now, take everything I just described, the anxiety, the comeback, the clutch shot, and bottle it up, because Golden State has to do this all over again on Friday night against the Phoenix Suns. And I have to tell you, if you think the Clippers were a tough out, the Suns are a different beast entirely. This is where the analysis gets a little dicey for anyone holding out hope for a deep Warriors run. The reward for surviving this emotional meat grinder of a game is a date with the Suns, and the winner of that game gets the 8th seed. And what does the 8th seed get you? Oh, nothing major, just a first-round best-of-7 series against the top-seeded, reigning, defending, world champion Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, talk about out of the frying pan and into a blazing inferno of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander dribbling and Chet Holmgren blocking shots. According to reports from the post-game press conference, Curry was asked about the key to Friday, and he used a word that I think is absolutely perfect: resiliency. He said, "These winner-go-home scenarios, we think we know the team, but you've got to be able to withstand the runs and stay in it emotionally." And that's the rub, isn't it? We think we know this Warriors team. We think they're too old, too small, too reliant on a guy with a creaky knee. But they keep proving that the emotional stamina, the muscle memory of winning is a real thing. They don't panic. They've been in so many of these back-and-forth games that they've developed a scar tissue that younger teams just don't have. They got over the hump in the last 3 minutes against the Clippers, but can they do it again on tired legs against a Phoenix team that will have had days to rest and scheme? That's the open loop that will keep me refreshing my feed until tip-off. While the West Coast was having a collective heart attack, over on the East Coast things were slightly more settled in Philadelphia, though not with their own brand of high-stakes drama. The Sixers hosted the Orlando Magic with a ticket to the actual playoffs on the line, and they did it without the face of their franchise. Joel Embiid, the big fellow, was on the bench in street clothes, making a surprise appearance as he recovers from an appendectomy. Let's just pause and appreciate the absurdity of that sentence for a second. The man had an appendectomy, which is a surgery that literally removes an organ from your body, and he's still showing up to the arena to sit on a hard folding chair and grimace while his teammates run up and down the floor. That's leadership, or maybe just a really good drug regimen for the pain. Either way, his presence was a nonverbal cue for that locker room. It was a nonverbal cue that said, "I'm here, you can do this," and Tyrese Maxey heard that message loud and clear. Maxey went out and dropped 31 points, playing with the kind of speed and joy that makes him one of the most likable players in the league. He's just so fast, it's like someone hit the fast forward button on his remote control. And his quote after the game, pure gold: "Man, we played hard as hell. I'm just so happy because like a lot of these guys ain't been to the playoffs before." There's something incredibly endearing about a star player acknowledging the human element, that for some guys in that locker room, this is a life-changing career milestone. The Magic, led by a whopping 34 points from Desmond Bane, didn't just roll over, by the way. This wasn't a blowout. It was a contentious, chippy game where the Magic cut an 11-point deficit to just 1 point panicked early in the fourth quarter. He felt that old familiar dread creeping into the Wells Fargo Center. Oh no, not again, not another Philly collapse. But the Sixers held firm. Rookie VJ Edgecombe put up a double-double with 19 points and 11 rebounds, looking like a seasoned veteran instead of a guy who was probably playing in college gyms this time last year. And Andre Drummond, coming off the bench, was an absolute monster in the paint. 14 points, 10 boards, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. That's a stat line that looks like a video game glitch. It was a total team effort, the kind of win that makes you believe a team has a puncher's chance even without their MVP. The Sixers clinched the 7th seed, and their reward is a first-round date with the Boston Celtics starting Sunday. Look, I'm not a doctor, but if I'm Joel Embiid, I'm asking the surgeon how fast that human body can heal, because facing the Celtics without him is like showing up to a gunfight with a very confident spatula. It's going to take everything Maxey has and then some. The ripple effects of these games are massive. For the Magic, it's not over. They get a second life, a last-chance saloon moment on Friday when they host the Charlotte Hornets. And what a story that Hornets team is, fresh off an overtime thriller against Miami where they sent Jimmy Butler fishing. The winner of that Magic Hornets game gets the 8th seed and the absolute